Now on the CTV News at 5, the doors open on Lethbridge's first Indigenous courtroom.
It focuses on restorative justice, trying to make the offender heal.
Plus, after nearly 3 decades, Canada loses its measles elimination status. And preparing to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our country.
Telling your stories. CTV News Lethbridge with Jackie Scantlebury.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Alberta's provincial court is taking steps to change the way it serves Indigenous people through incorporating more culturally appropriate components. Today, a new Indigenous courtroom opened in Lethbridge, the first of its kind in southern Alberta. Carson Marsouk reports.
Having Indigenous court open up in Lethbridge is a dream for many people in this area.
Inside the Lethbridge Courthouse is a renovated courtroom to serve as the city's first Indigenous court. The different approach to justice incorporates tradition, culture, and Indigenous ways.
It focuses on restorative justice, trying to make the offender heal, trying to make them well, and at the same time serving the community they're from and the victims that they've transgressed.
With input from local elders, knowledge keepers, and other Indigenous organizations, the court reflects ongoing collaboration to address the unique needs of Indigenous individuals involved in the justice system.
It's really about self-determination and helping our people understand their own lives and the historic trauma impacts in their own lives. And once people understand that and they are offered help, they want to change.
The new courtroom features an oval-shaped table where the judge and both parties will sit around to come to a resolution. As of 2024, 42% of people incarcerated in Alberta were Indigenous people. Those wanting to go through the court will have to apply.
Our experience is that it becomes a bit of an avalanche, that people hear about it, they see the need for it, they see the good that it does, how it can change people and people's lives. And we fully expect that we'll move from Monday afternoons every second week to full-day Mondays to perhaps court every week.
Indigenous courts have been established in Calgary, Edmonton, and St. Paul.
I really anticipate that we're going to see large numbers of Indigenous people go through Indigenous court, never to return.
Carson Marsouk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
Lethbridge police are trying to track down a man wanted on an outstanding warrant. 27-year-old Brandon Paulo Amundsen is charged with break and enter to commit assault and is known to be violent. Police efforts to locate him are ongoing. If you have seen Amundsen or know where he is, you're asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers. Now, the strong winds helping fuel a grass fire east of Lethbridge this morning. Coaldale and District Emergency Services responding shortly after 7 a.m. to the blaze along Highway 3 near Broxburn. The strong winds spread the fire along the ditch, but crews were able to stop it from causing any damage. Lethbridge County currently has a fire advisory in place, while a fire ban is in effect for Lethbridge's River Valley. A fire advisory is also in effect for Vulcan County, the MD of Pincher Creek, and Cypress County. Now, those winds also knocking out power to a large area in the south side of Lethbridge earlier today. A falling tree knocked out power to more than 2,200 customers near the hospital around 8:45 a.m. City crews and Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services responded to the downed tree. The city was able to restore power shortly before 10. Danielle Savoni, let's talk about that wind out there.
Yeah, dangerous wind gusts in some communities. Now, there's no wind warning in place, and the winds have since started to calm down, but it's still quite gusty. It's not this gusty, though. So 122 kilometers per hour is the maximum wind gust in Pincher Creek. And we were in that range for a few hours, basically from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it's now starting to slowly calm down. Almost 90 kilometers per hour in Lethbridge and over 70 in Medicine Hat. It's still going to be gusty tomorrow, just not this gusty. We're looking at 60 up to 70 kilometers per hour for tomorrow. So somewhat better. 15 degrees is the current temperature. So again, these winds have increase the temperature into the teens today. Milk River is at 16, Medicine Hat and Lethbridge at 15, and Pincher Creek at 11. That full forecast is just ahead, Jackie.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. Canada's Public Health Agency says the country has now officially lost its measles elimination status. Canada held the measles elimination status since 1998, but after a spike in cases over the past year, the Pan American Health Organization, which is an arm of the World Health Organization, has revoked that. In Canada, there's been more than 5,000 cases in 9 provinces and 1 territory, with almost 2,000 of those cases here in Alberta.
Once the outbreak's declared over, then we will have to work for 12 months to sustain that lack of transmission. And at the end of that 12 months, we have to prove to the Pan American Health Organization that we have no transmission going on and that our surveillance systems, the monitoring systems are good enough to prove that we've got no transmission, and also show that our immunization coverage is high enough.
Southern Alberta has had nearly 1,000 cases in the past year, but currently there are only 2 active cases province-wide, and both are in northern Alberta. The public is invited to join veterans and dignitaries at 2 Remembrance Day ceremonies tomorrow. The General Stewart Branch No. 4 of the Royal Canadian Legion will host an indoor ceremony at the Lethbridge Trade and Convention Centre. Doors will open at 10, with seating completed by 10:30. The ceremony starts at 10:45 sharp. The 20th Independent Field Battery will host an outdoor event at 10:45 at the Cenotaph in front of the Yates Centre. There are 2 scheduled flybys depending on the weather. Following both events, the Lethbridge Military Museum will be open with free admission from noon until 4 near the airport. Now, there are also a few city closures to be aware of. City Hall and 311 will be closed tomorrow, along with the Waste and Recycling Centre. The Helen Schuler Nature Centre and Library will be closed. The Galt Museum will be open from 1 until 5. Lethbridge Transit will be running on a Sunday service. Every November, we hear stories of service and sacrifice, and one of them belongs to a 103-year-old Alberta veteran who will attend the National Remembrance Day ceremony to mark 80 years since the Second World War. Kathy Lee reports.
I would have been 21.
Clad in his Royal Canadian Air Force uniform is a young man ready to answer the call of the Second World War.
I thought, oh boy, I'm going overseas. I really wanted to go.
But instead, the new recruit was assigned as a leading aircraft man, stationed in Skeduk, New Brunswick, doing small repairs and sometimes big projects.
We got a Hawker Hurricane, a single-seater fighter plane, and we got it as in kits, and we put it all together, and I did the electrical work on it.
The sparks and circuits kept Elmer Friesen busy for a year and a half, until his service took a musical turn.
I was always singing. Wherever I went, I was always singing.
When he was recruited into an entertainment group.
We did variety shows, two of them, and we also did Gilbert and Sullivan Opera. We performed in Moncton and Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island.
Friesen wasn't overseas, but his role at home was just as crucial, lifting spirits of civilians as wartime tension grew.
It was really good to see the reception that we got when we did entertain them. I know that it took some relief out of their concerns.
He would go on to perform for another year or so. And while the curtain has long since fallen, the melodies never really left.
Take me out to the ball game.
At 103, his voice may be softer, but the echo of his service remains. Proof that duty isn't always measured in combat, but sometimes it's measured in music. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
In honor of Remembrance Day, Tim Hortons is offering free coffee to veterans and armed force members. The company says those who present a valid government-issued veteran service card or military service ID card can receive a free hot beverage of their choice tomorrow. The promotion applies to all locations across Canada. Tim Hortons' president says it's a gesture of appreciation for their service and sacrifice. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business is calling for the provinces to ditch the red tape that's holding back Canada's alcohol producers. In a report called Bottled Up, the CFIB says the outdated rules continue to hold small craft beer, wine, and liquor producers from reaching new markets, even if that market is a neighboring province. The report says when American liquor was removed from Canadian shelves earlier this year, it opened space that could and should have been filled by small Canadian products. The CFIB found rigid interprovincial rules and excessive red tape hindered Canadian producers from expanding their markets. Alberta's cultural and historic sites saw a boom this summer with more than 600,000 visitors. The province says visits rose 7% compared to the previous year. That's partly because more Canadians were taking vacations in Canada due to tensions with the U.S. The province also offered free admission to children and discounts to youth following the federal government's Canada Strong Pass initiative. Well, Danielle is back to talk about the wind and those semis that have been blowing over. She's got the rest of the forecast after this break. Also, how a former Marine and Army veteran ended up being the one needing help and his service dog gave it to him.
Skycam facing southwest, beautiful shot, but certainly bouncing around. And this camera is bolted in there pretty good. Yeah, it's a windy one today. I'm sure I don't need to tell you that. If you were outside at all, or even inside, you would hear it, certainly on your house, because it's been very gusty. We'll talk about the gusts and the improvement that we're going to see. So the story out west has been, for us, warm and windy. Out east, it's been cooler, you can see. So Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, around or just below that freezing mark for the most part for many communities. Okay, checking out temperatures. The winds out of the west, yes, it's gusty. That's of course what gets these temperatures up into the teens. So it's 13 in Calgary, 14 in Drumheller, Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Milk River. This is of course very warm for this time of year, early November, but these are the gusts that we've been getting. And I showed you this earlier in the show. 122 was the maximum wind gusts in Pincher Creek. And again, we were at this range of wind gusts between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. and it's slowly starting to subside. Slowly, it's still very gusty and into the 80s and 90s at times, and around that 90 mark in Lethbridge and over 70 for Medicine Hat. When we look at Medicine Hat and Lethbridge, we're still looking at gusty conditions tomorrow, about up to 60 kilometers per hour, but this will be up to 60, 70 kilometers per hour. So certainly an improvement, but still windy tomorrow. The other thing is that the wind should start to pick up as early as 10 in the morning tomorrow again. So again, it dies down tonight and then picks up again. So it might be in place and a little bit gusty when people are heading out to Remembrance Day ceremonies. So keep that in mind when making your plans. Okay, radar and satellite, not a whole lot to talk about. We have this clearing out. There's a little pocket of rain that's starting to track to the south. This system should mainly stay stateside, but it is responsible for the winds and the flow out of the west that we're getting. But this is a look at tomorrow. Lots of sunshine out there for tomorrow in the far south. So good news for us. And winds, yes, gusty, but calmer. We can handle 60 kilometers per hour. 122. That's dangerous, of course. We have no warnings in place because things are starting to improve. All right, and that's a look at tomorrow. So sunny, a little bit on the windy side, and temperatures won't be as warm because the winds are not as strong out of the west, but they're still quite toasty for this time of year. 7 degrees is our high tomorrow in the East Kootenay area, mainly sunny skies. Winds only up to 20 kilometers per hour there. Gusts up to 70 kilometers per hour, maybe even 80, up to as late as 1 a.m. Then things will start to calm down, and tomorrow you're looking at things picking up to 60 kilometers per hour around 9, 10 in the morning. High of 10 for tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. Medicine Hat, same idea, 40 kilometers per hour throughout the overnight up until about 2 in the morning. And then tomorrow they start to kick in around 10, 11 a.m. up to 50 kilometers per hour. You're looking mainly sunny skies and a high of 13. And in Lethbridge, if you are heading out to anything, keep in mind you're looking at about 10 degrees at 10 a.m., getting up to a high of 13 later in the afternoon. And yes, it will be gusty, 60 kilometers per hour, and that could kick in as early as 10, 11 in the morning. And then we hold on to some warmth, at least in the double digits, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Now to a service dog who deserves a big treat for helping his pal. Here's ABC's Danny New.
When Marine and U.S. Army veteran Hank Ford enters a room, his service dog, Tommy, can usually help him relax from old habits.
It used to be I'd walk into a place and I'm looking for exits. I'm watching everybody. I'm just not trusting anything that's going on. And with him, all that seems to have gone away.
However, the Colorado native might only be alive today because of something Tommy did earlier this year when Hank was not even awake.
That morning, I guess I wasn't getting up. and he just went into a panic.
Hank received Tommy 2 years ago from a nonprofit called Dogs, Inc., and usually, as he was trained to do, Tommy wakes him up every day around 7 a.m. But this one morning in February, the now 3-year-old yellow lab woke Hank up way earlier and almost seemed to be trying to tell him exactly why.
He was hitting me in the chest. He wasn't coming up to my face. He was literally hitting me in the chest.
That's so wild.
Feeling kind of off, Hank then drove himself to the hospital only to find out he was in what's called AFib, with an irregular rapid heartbeat. As the doctor put it, if Tommy did not start barking and pulling on him,
you probably wouldn't have woken up, or you would have had a massive stroke.
Staying overnight, Hank would eventually undergo shock treatment in the morning. But before that, guess who would not leave his side?
He just laid there with his nose looking right at me and just stared at me for hours.
9 months later, after also undergoing a cardiac ablation and going on medication, Hank says he is feeling way better now.
All right, Tommy.
These days, Tommy rides shotgun while Hank works his part-time job as a golf course marshal.
It's my golf ball, Tommy.
And will use that very impressive nose to help Dad find golf balls or whatever else he may need.
How much has Tommy changed your life?
Night and day. Night and day. Everybody that knows me, they're just like, they can't believe the difference in me.
Again, that organization is called Dogs, Inc. And in addition to providing service dogs to veterans, they also provide guide dogs to people with visual impairments. And starting in 2026, they will also provide dogs who can detect changes in blood sugar for people with type 1 diabetes. In New York, for ABC News, I'm Daniel New.
Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, we talk Hurricanes action, a big trade, and Medicine Hat Tigers next in sports. Lethbridge Hurricanes finished off a 4-game homestand Friday before hitting the road, and it turned into one of the wildest games you will ever see. Brandon Wheat Kings went up 2-0 early in the first before Lethbridge rattled off 5 unanswered goals, and that lead would not last long as Brandon had the game tied at 5 at the end of a crazy 20 minutes. The second period would settle down a bit with a pair of goals each to send it to the third, tied at 7. Early in the third, Logan Wormold finds the back of the net to put Lethbridge up for good. Luke Cousins led the way with 7 points in a wild 8-7 win. Now Saturday, Lethbridge would come back down to earth after scoring first and being tied after 2 periods. The wheels fell off in the third for Lethbridge. They gave up 3 goals in the final frame to lose that game 5-2. On Sunday, the Hurricanes announced a trade that will certainly shake things up. The Canes sent forward Shane Smith and the WHL rights for Czech prospect Wojciech Cigar to the Kelowna Rockets. In return, the Canes landed 19-year-old Caden Longley and prospect Grayson Bauer. Lethbridge also netted several picks, including a 4th, 6th, and conditional first-round pick in the upcoming draft. Medicine Hat Tigers were also in action over the weekend, playing the Edmonton Oil Kings Friday night. Down 2-1 in the third, Jonas Wu found the back of the net to tie it up. After Edmonton got another goal, Caden McCann finds the back of the net with less than a minute to go to send it to overtime. Now, after overtime solved nothing, this game, it needed a shootout. Neither goalie surrendered a goal until round 7 when Edmonton's Paul Anderson scored with a beauty to give Edmonton a 4-3 win. Tigers look to bounce back Saturday against the Brandon Wheat Kings. And after 40 minutes, this one was all tied up at 3, but the Wheat Kings came to play in the third, scoring 4 times to put them up for good. A Jonas Wu hat trick wasn't enough. The Tigers lose again, 7-4. Brooks Bandits are looking to make up for a slow start. They had a chance to make up ground in the standings with a home-and-home series against Black Falls over the weekend. Turned out to be another tough weekend for Brooks. Despite scoring first on Friday, the Bandits ended up on the losing end of a 5-2 game. Saturday night, things didn't go better for the Bandits. Brooks could only manage 1 goal late in the third in a 5-2 loss. Cranbrook Bucks were also in Alberta this weekend for a quick road trip. Friday saw their losing streak hit 10 in a 7-1 loss to the Sherwood Park Crusaders. But a tremendous weight was lifted Saturday as Cranbrook got their first win in almost a month. The strong third period powered the Bucks to a 4-2 win over the Okotoks Oilers. U of L Pronghorns and Lethbridge Polytechnic Kodiaks each had teams in action this weekend. Pronghorns basketball teams traveled to Regina to play the Cougars. Friday, the women's team lost big 79-28 afterwards. The men managed to pick up a 76-5 win. Now, Saturday was another tough one for the women's team. a 101-48 loss. The men fell short looking for a weekend sweep with 105-84 defeat. Looking at the Kodiaks basketball, where they played the St. Trojans, Friday the women's team came up short in a 66-51 loss. Equally tough for the men, they lost 92-71. Saturday, the women's team got revenge in a tight 61-58 win. The men weren't as fortunate, losing 89-53. Kodiak's volleyball teams also squared off against the Trojans. Friday night, the women's team lost 3-1. Men's volleyball had no problem. They won in a 3-set sweep. Saturday, the women would lose again, this time in a sweep. After that, the men lost their first set of the season, but still managed a 3-1 win to stay perfect. Now, the Canadian Premier League soccer final is making news all over the world thanks to an incredible goal being dubbed the icicle kick.
Anyone's to claim in the air. Bicycle! Oh my God! The most incredible goal in CPL history!
Those ice-cold acrobatics from David Rodriguez helped lead Atletico Ottawa to the North Star Cup. It was a unique contest with multiple delays to clear the snow from the pitch. Rodriguez would go on to score a dramatic winner in extra time to give Ottawa the 2-1 win over Calgary's Calvary FC. The conditions in Ottawa in the final were poor, ankle-deep snow on the pitch for most of the game. There was even a 40-minute break to clear the pitch before extra time began. And two Major League Baseball pitchers are in hot water over a betting scandal. Cleveland Guardians pitcher Emmanuel Clace and Luis Ortiz are alleged to have taken bribes to give sports bettors advance notice of the types of pitches they would throw. They'd also allegedly threw balls intentionally instead of strikes to ensure successful bets. An indictment unsealed Sunday claims they both took thousands of dollars from two gamblers. They are facing charges including conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering. Still ahead on the CTV News at 5, how two Alberta men are restoring a war airplane. Two men from Innisfail are spending hundreds of hours restoring a Second World War airplane. The plane was discovered 4 years ago in a field near the Red Deer Regional Airport. It was the remains of a 1941 Airspeed Oxford used to train pilots. Despite years of work, Vern Duick and David Kolsnick say the plane won't be fully restored for another 10 years.
Well, we're volunteers with Harvard Historical Aviation Society in Penhold, and the society is trying to preserve all of the history of the airbase from World War II, because what they found is that history is slowly being lost if we don't preserve it. And so this is one part of that preservation, is this airplane that we're working on.
Both men are retired power engineers and say they have taken on the challenge in order to preserve history. Thank you for sharing this time with us. Now here's the early edition of the CTV National News.